I would now like to introduce your speaker for today, Ed Knox, Consulting Manager and Senior Applications Architect. He has 15 years of experience in designing, architecting, and implementing complex technology solutions for clients in various industries, including financial services. He is a certified SharePoint developer, administrator, and a .NET developer. Ed, with that, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. So we're going to walk through a hedge fund solution for SharePoint, basically providing a system for research analysts to take advantage of SharePoint for collaborating within their organization, but also sharing the data that is usually siloed throughout their organization. So we're going to go a little bit through MicroStrategy, the company, a little bit about our background, some of our areas of expertise, and then talk a little bit more about the solution and then jump right into a demo. So hopefully we're not going too much into slides and everyone gets most of what they want. So a little bit about the company. Basically, we were established in 1983. We are a Microsoft Gold partner, and we operate in the New York Metro and Mid-Atlantic area. We are also an IBM Premier partner. We have two groups that basically make up the main part of the company. We have the Business Solutions Group, which is focused mostly on enterprise content management, portals and collaboration, custom application development, and business analytics. And then the other side of the house works on the advanced infrastructure, basically the virtualization strategies, the platforms as a service, and overall performance computing. One of the things that MicroStrategy brings to the table is our Business Partner Innovation Centers. This basically gives us two separate data centers where we can bring clients in to do POCs, we can do live demonstrations, hands-on testing. They're about a little over 100 miles apart, so it gives us also an ability to show some of our disaster recovery solutions, and again, walk users through a live environment to get their hands on and really experience the technology firsthand. Here's just a list of some of our other partners that we work with. Again, Microsoft being one of the big ones, but then there's also a lot of them that complement and we add in for some of the solutions that we build on top of the Microsoft platform. In terms of the Business Solutions Group within MicroStrategy, one of the main areas we focus on is content management. That will take everything from scanning in documents, working with email, web content management, overall collaboration, and document management within the organization in terms of enterprise content management, and then even the entire life cycle when we're talking about document retention policies and destructions of those documents. And today when we start talking about the research portal, a lot of what these topics will kind of go hand in hand in terms of how that solution enables some of these features for a hedge fund. So basically, the research portal for hedge funds, we're going to talk about a few areas when we're talking about the solution. The dashboard, which is basically a view into the overall system, but then there's also dashboards for each individual area that we go into. The documents within the system, that being the tagging of the documents, the searching of the documents, the navigation around the documents, search specifically, and how SharePoint as a platform really gives an enterprise experience when you're talking about searching, both on the keywords and some metadata, and then some analytics. Basically, we're going to show a little bit about how using Excel, we can start creating some very rich dashboards and give some real good insight into the analysts as they're working within the system. So with that being said, let's just jump right into a demo. So right now, when a user navigates to the research portal, they would come to the landing page. On this landing page, we basically have the structure is set up so on the left-hand side, we have a few RSS feeds. On the top right, we also have an RSS feed, and then On the bottom right, we have a CEO blog. Basically, this is configurable. You can work with any types of feeds, aggregate any information you wanted to, but this is kind of the landing page for everyone within the organization to come to and see information about this research portal. On the upper part of the screen, we have the navigation here. The navigation kind of breaks out the relationships that we've created across these different entities within the research site. So we have sites set up for funds, sites set up for industries and sectors, and then even for companies within the organization and what they're tracking, regions, and then countries, and then also a search bar. The relationships here are basically what ties together all of these different entities in terms of how the analysts work with them and how they can organize their information. So I'm going to start off by going to the Ashland company site. You can see that this is basically under the industry sector. This is completely configurable in terms of how things are related. Right now we're just doing it industry, sector, country, also doing region, country, and fund. So all of this is configurable based on how you as an organization organize your research data. The basic page that you land on for when you navigate to a company is the company information page. On this page, on the left-hand side, you'll see there's navigation specific to the site that you're on. So right now we're in a company site, and that company site has, on the left-hand navigation, company information, company documents, an org chart, some of the libraries where our documents will live, and then on the top, you'll see the navigation follows throughout the entire system. So it's a consistent user experience throughout the system with that top nav. So now, in the middle of the page, we have the company information web part. This is basically displaying the metadata around the company itself, and that data is relevant to those relationships that we talked about. So you can see the name of the company, Ashland, the ticker, ASH, the website, industries, basic materials, sectors, chemicals, region, North America, and countries, United States of America. And when I hover all over these, you'll notice that they're all hyperlinks that would bring you to those other sites within this system so that you can now drill into it if you wanted to go look into that research information specific to, let's say, basic materials. You can also edit this information on the page. So if I click Edit Information, you'll see that here's a page that comes up to edit any of this metadata. You can also browse and change the logo if you wanted to. Very standard information gathered that you now have edit capabilities. Moving down from company, we go into external analyst. Basically, this is a place where you can now attach analysts outside of your organization that you refer to as industry experts. So right now I just have one person listed. It's very simple if you wanted to add another external analyst. If you've already added them someplace in the system, you can do a search for them. So if we know that we've already added a user in here, Jones, we can select that and it'll add it to the system. If we haven't added that user, we can enter in their information here, their first name, last name, email, phone, and employer. So let's select Mike Jones, and we'll include him as one of the external analysts that we want to tie to this particular company. So now anyone within the organization, if they navigate to this company site, they'll know if they have any questions outside of what is internal to them, they can reach out to Mike Jones via email or phone and get more information about that topic. Similar to the external analysts, we also have internal analysts. Here you can do the same thing in terms of adding an analyst, although now instead of searching for someone you've previously created, this is searching your organization and any user that already has access to SharePoint, and you can now add them in as someone that is internal to the organization but considered an industry expert. This is definitely beneficial when you have larger organizations and many research analysts. Not everybody is familiar with what each person is working on. I'm going to actually just jump back up to the external analyst. If you did, after you added someone in there, if you wanted to make a change to them, you can easily come in, edit any of that information that was stored within the system. So moving over to the right, we have a calendar on the screen. This is basically just capturing any events tied to that particular company. So right now we just have a listing of board meetings, so you can flip through, go through the month and see the different meetings or events that you need to attend, whether it's notifications that will be sent out, meetings you have to attend, or just overall announcements that the company will make. All of that can be tracked here. Moving down from the calendar, there's a section here called Note Board. This is basically a place where any individual that has access to this site can basically have an ongoing thread of topics around that particular entity. Right now, there's just a few. You can flip through them. As you see, there's only 4 or 5 right now, but it's easily, as you keep adding more, you'll see that they keep adding up and you can rotate through them. So if I go back onto my left side navigation over here, I'm going to now select Company Documents. This is basically a grouping of the different documents that this research group would be interested in. Right now, we've broken it out to agreements, earnings models, company notes, financials, research, meeting minutes, and correspondence. This is configurable. If there was a different level of grouping that an organization wanted to work with, then all of that is available here. This is just what we kind of set up as out of the box. You'll notice that this is basically just a view into other libraries within the system. So if I wanted to go click on research, rather than look at everything else, I can go into just the research library and work with the individual documents that way. Right now, I'm going to go back to the Documents Portal page just so I can see everything else that we're currently working on within that organization. With this view, you also have the ability to do filtering, sorting. So if I select type, you can see I can do it ascending, descending. I can do some filtering based on those document types. I can do the same thing with modified and modified by. If we added any other metadata into this view, you would also be able to do some grouping by that metadata, or you could do filtering or sorting on that metadata. Right now, I'm just showing the standard library services that are available in terms of metadata. So it's very simple to add a new document to this library. You'll see Add Document is available in each one of these libraries. So I'm just going to select Add Document, and I'll bring up a new Word document. You'll see here there's version comments. So every time a document is checked in, you can add comments to it. I'll just put a very basic one, just so that you can see later on that these comments are available and viewable. So now this document has been uploaded, and you'll notice that a metadata screen comes up here. Everything is pre-populated right now in terms of it knows the name of the document, company name. Because I'm in the Ashland site, it's in there. It's already been tagged with sector, industry, region, and country because this is all metadata that we established up front. So the user doesn't have to enter in any of this information. At this point, we could just click Save, and now the document has been uploaded. And you can see here, NJS complete. At this point, I'm going to show you a little bit about the version history. So this is the document I just uploaded. You can see here it's version 1. You can see some of the metadata that was entered, who did it, and the initial comment. If I choose another document that has a little more information around it, you can see I've hovered over this document. As soon as I hover over it, a menu will become available, and in that menu we have a few options here. We can view the properties for that document. This gives us everything that I showed you before on the upload, and it shows us a little bit more in terms of the document ID. So this document ID is automatically generated by the system and will let us track this document anywhere if it's moved throughout the system. You can also see other information about who created it, who last modified it. At this point, I'm going to show that drop-down menu again, and there's a couple other options that we'll go into a little later: view in browser, edit in browser. I'll bring up version history. You can see here this one has a few more versions to it, so at any point in time, if you wanted to roll back to a specific version, you can go in and view that version, you can restore that version. All of that is now available because of the out-of-the-box capabilities of SharePoint and its basic library services. If I hover back over that document again, another option on this screen is compliance details. So if I click on this, you'll notice that there's a retention policy set up for this document. This helps us with compliance, and basically this policy is very simple. It's after 3 years of creation, permanently delete this document. That's one of the more basic options. We can go down and put it into a holding pattern. We can create kickoff workflows. We can make notifications. It's very flexible in terms of what happens, but again, this is all around the end-to-end life cycle of your document and how SharePoint and its policies can enable you to ensure better compliance. Another thing down on this screen is the audit log. Basically, anything within SharePoint is able to be audited, whether it's the opening and downloading of the documents, the viewing of the documents, editing of the documents, checking in or out, who's searching on it, if someone's moved it. All of that is items that can be tracked within the system if you wanted to. One of the other helpful options within this menu is the send to. So if you just want to send an email link out to someone else in the organization or someone in general that has access to your SharePoint site, this is very straightforward. Your Exchange administrators are very happy when you send out links and not actual copies of the documents, because you're no longer filling up Exchange, you're just sending around links, and this makes it much easier for everyone to always be working on the latest and greatest version of the document instead of multiple copies being sent around. One thing that I kind of glanced over before is I'm going to show this view in browser. I'll actually show it to you with an Excel file. So SharePoint gives you the ability to view and edit Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, and OneNote notebooks inside of the browser. Basically, you'll see this is a fully functional Excel spreadsheet. Right now I'm just in view mode, but basically you can flip through the different sheets, you can edit it, you can update your calculations, your formulas. All of that's available within the browser as well as the Office client itself. A couple of places where this becomes very useful is when you have mobile users coming to the system. They may not have the Office clients on there, so using the web-based version of this makes their life a lot easier. You'll also see later on when I start doing search that this becomes very helpful if you want to just do a quick view of the documents. You may not want to load the entire thing up in your Office client, so this gives you an easy way to actually just view the document instead of having to load the client again. One last section that we've added to the left side navigation is an org chart for the Ashland company here. While this isn't as exciting as maybe some of the other stuff that you'll see, this basically is showing you how we can use Visio to create charts and graphs that can actually be tied to data and delivered through SharePoint's native browser instead of having to have clients install Visio right on their machines. So now I'm just going to do a search within the system. We've seen that we've uploaded a lot of documents, we've looked at the metadata, and at this point, I do a simple keyword search for energy. It'll fail, and I'll try it again. And you'll see there's three main sections to the search results screen. Basically, this was using just a keyword search of energy, but on the left-hand side, we have what's called a refinement panel. Basically, on the top, you'll see you can refine this based on the result type, if I only want to see just PDFs, web pages, or Word documents. Sites, if I know which site that content should be in, I may want to filter it that way. The author, modified date, and then it becomes really interesting. On the bottom, you have industry and region. So before, when I uploaded that document, you saw there was basic metadata was applied to that document. Those terms now give me the ability to filter the content that I've searched on by simply clicking on it. So right now I have results 1 of 9. If I do just the basic materials industry, you'll see that it's 1 of 6. At this point, I've now filtered the search screen, the results. You'll also notice that I have a Word document here and this link for view in browser. So this becomes a shortcut if you wanted to. If you wanted to bring up that Word document inside the browser instead of having to load the Office client again. On the right-hand side, you'll also see people matches. So because all of the users' profiles within your organization are within SharePoint, anyone that has tagged any of this information as part of their profile, they'll come up as industry experts also within the system. Another search to just show you. So within the Excel spreadsheet that I brought up before, there was basic content, basic tags inside of it for weighted average cost of capital, WACC. So just because that's inside of one of my documents, my keyword searches work across all the documents, pages, any content you have in SharePoint. Even if you had content external to SharePoint, you can also have your system search across that. So now I'm going to go over to a fund site. Now, a fund site is very similar to the company site in terms of structure. It has the landing page with basic information, calendars, analysts, note boards. Same thing with documents. It has the same basic document structure, a little bit less in terms of some of the libraries. What becomes a little more relevant with the fund is basically the piece about analytics that we added to it. So right now, most analysts are working inside of Excel. Anything that they do in terms of Excel, we can take out the charts, the graphs, and now start displaying that as dashboards within the system. At this point, this is now inside the system. It's driven by the data inside of your Excel spreadsheet and can be refreshed regularly within the system. So now the analysts are creating their own using the BI tool that they're most comfortable with, and we're now displaying that within the browser so that anyone that navigates to this fund, or even if it was an industry or a region, any one of those entities, we can now start presenting information that used to be hidden inside of Excel spreadsheets that had to be emailed around can now be surfaced up through a landing page and a dashboard within the system. This just happened to be a performance one where we're showing 4 different graphs, charts on a screen. We have another one up here for peer comparison where we're showing 2 different graphs. You can also see that on this page we allow the user to actually flip through and select different charts within the system. Again, all of this is configurable based on any of the Excel spreadsheets and charts that are created within the system. It's not tied to peer comparison or performance. This is just what we've chosen to display at this point in time. Again, it's anything within Excel. We now have the ability to share that across the organization instead of sending those across in emails. And then one other thing that I was going to cover was basically, you saw there's funds, industries, regions, sectors, companies. The ability to create a new site is as simple as going to the menu, create new research site, and from here I'll just create one for a company. Call it micro, ticker with MSI. I'll give it a URL, company status. You know, at this point, we're going to be watching this company. The industry, we'll say they're in technology, software and computer services. The region, let's go with the Caribbean. Just in case it wasn't hot enough right now, we'll go with Caribbean. And we'll be in Barbados. And then we can also upload a logo here. So at this point, we now have all our metadata around the company. You can also see we could have created a research site for country, fund, industry, sector, or region, but for now we'll just do one on company. And I've selected the redirect on new site. So at this point, I'm going to click on create new site. This will begin the process of actually generating those new research sites in the background off of the templates that are specific to each one of those entities that we have configured. And again, how those templates are processed and what's generated and displayed to the end user is all configurable based on how your particular research firm works. If everything is relevant to models, and less around other pieces of information, then we would probably bring that to the forefront. So this one's just working away. It should be done any second now. And once it is, then we'll be able to navigate to that site, and we'll also see that it was brought up in the navigation menu so that the other users within the system can now get to it based on permissions. Everything within the system is security trimmed. So now, you can see now that this new site was created. You can see technology, software, and micro. So there's now a new site out there for users to now connect to called micro. That's about it from a demo perspective. So I'm going to go back to my slides. That's going to mostly wrap it up at this point. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is at the bottom, enox@microstrat.com. And thank you very much.